I've sailed halfway around the world solo on my 27-foot boat with a fiberglass rowboat as my tender. In New Zealand I picked up an outboard, and now in Cairns, Australia, I'm giving up my rowboat to join the 21st century. Since this is a big deal for me, I wanted nothing but the best, which naturally means Highfield. Today I'm picking up my new Highfield ultralight tender and trading out Puss the rowboat for good. Puss is getting just a little bit inconvenient, and as much as I love to uphold the aesthetic of having a rowboat, there's a reason why everyone else has inflatables, and that's because it's just easier. I'm enjoying my last few weeks with Puss because I'm saying goodbye to her, and it's kind of sad because I really loved this dinghy with all my heart. I'm going to just throw in a quick little aside here. This April, I am part of the Odyssey Sailing Festival in the British Virgin Islands, and this is a group of very cool sailors who are coming together to captain boats that you guys are able to rent cabins on so you can sail with a bunch of really cool sailors. And if I am not appealing enough myself, there's a whole cast of amazing sailors whose YouTube channels you've probably watched before or whose world records you probably know about. So if this at all interests you, check out the website and book a cabin with me or with any one of these amazing sailors for a group of fun, lots of partying, lots of exploring around the British Virgin Islands. But also, if you've ever wondered what it's like to cruise and have a beautiful sailing community and have the freedom to just go with the wind, anchor up wherever you want to with a group of your closest friends, and enjoy the fruits of life, then this is definitely a festival for you to check out. Puss gets tricky when it's really windy and we're trying to load stuff in and out of her. Right now we've got wind and we've got current, and it's all a bit tippy, rolly.
Yeah, so that's not.
Oh, you got water in.
I'll pass it this way.
With mine and Dan's active lifestyles, transporting surfboards, foil boards, kite gear, and now bicycles, in addition to the everyday cruising water jerrys, fuel jerrys, and provisions, is becoming increasingly difficult.
How much freeboard you got, darling?
Not much.
Not much, plus a Danny.
Puss was given to me by some good friends of my parents. Her original name was Duke, so maybe she started her life as a boy. I received her right before I left Maine to start my circumnavigation, and she sailed halfway around the world with me. So as a little farewell to Puss, I want to look back on all of the moments that she's joined me, starting with the day I left Maine in 2018 on my first solo overnight passage. I'm underway. First leg of the trip. Looks like I have great wind from here to Cape Cod, so I'm just gonna go check it out. I figured out my wind fade. This is my first sunset underway. I'm so excited. It's so beautiful. I sailed from Maine down through the Cape Cod Canal, down through Long Island Sound, out through past the Statue of Liberty. I'm going through Hell's Gate right now. Bye Manhattan. Hello wavy nasty guck out there. It's blowing 25 to 30 knots. I have discovered that I'm either incontinent or my fall weather pants leak. And got into Great Kills Bay, which is on the other side of the Statue of Liberty, where I got into some really nasty weather. Basically what was happening was I left Maine in the end of October, and it very late in the season to be leaving Maine, but I needed all the time in the summer to keep working on my boat. So the nor'easterlies were coming down the coast. So what I would do is hop out on the tail of the nor'easterly, ride those winds down for a couple days, tuck in, wait for the next nor'easterly to pass. Once the winds got down to around 25 knots, hop out on the tail of that one. And this was my introduction to sailing solo on my own boat. Luckily, I didn't know that this isn't how all sailing is, so I was like, what a grand adventure. So this morning is the morning I'm supposed to leave Great Kills and make my way to Cape May. This is what it looks like outside. Day that I'm leaving, pretty auspicious, I think. Right. Okay, time to go get pummeled. The sun is setting, it's blowing 30 knots. And the waves are about 5 to 7 feet. I really hope everything dies down by tonight or it's going to be super terrifying. After Cape May, I sailed to Norfolk, Virginia, where I, hilariously, I knew I was going to go into the waterway to get down to North Carolina, which was where I was leaving my boat to do my last contract in Antarctica to make some cash money. Because when I left Maine, I think I had about $200 in my bank account. I didn't realize there were two different waterways that you could go down, the big main one and then the Dismal Swamp Canal, which is nice and little. And so by chance I just happened to end up in the Dismal Swamp Canal, which was absolutely gorgeous. It just felt incredible to be able to not be freezing and offshore and in giant waves and to actually feel like I was getting somewhere. And also did not think I was going to be doing locks on that trip, so that was cool. The next big milestone Puss and I did together was transiting the Panama Canal, which also was quite the adventure. The day before I had my canal date, I went to start my engine and it wouldn't start. It turns out that there was something wrong with the starter motor, and that was when I figured out how to hand crank my engine, so hand started it through the whole Panama Canal.
Where did this come from?
I think there was some pooled under the engine, so I think it's just coming out from there.
No!
After the Panama Canal, I sailed 41 days solo from Panama to the Marquesas. It was COVID-y time, so the Galapagos were closed. I did sail past the Galapagos, so I got to see the islands, but I wasn't able to actually touch shore, so it was quite a long passage. I stayed in French Polynesia for 2 years and then sailed to Fiji for a couple months. My sister joined me for a passage to New Zealand, which we actually did without an engine because my engine died in Fiji, so we did get becalmed for 3 days, but we eventually made it. After a season in New Zealand, I sailed from Vanuatu to the Solomons to Cairns, Australia, where I am now, changing out Puss for a new high-field dinghy.
Morning.
So we're on our way in to drop off Puss with Andy and pick up the new dinghy, which has been christened Grub. We just like monosyllabic animal names for our tenders here. Excited to get the new boat. Sad to get rid of this little guy. It's taken me halfway around the world through many an anchorage. It's been smashed up a lot on coral and on docks. Once I came back to a wharf that I tied it up to in the Marquesas, and it had completely swamped because the ferry came through and the waves were so big that it was full of water, but the flotation compartments kept it just above the surface. Luckily I had taken out the oars and put them on shore. And we managed to jump down the wharf and bail her out so that I could row home, which was really nice. She's a solid little beastie. I'm gonna miss her. But I'm very excited for my new high-field dinghy. Living the dream with a squishy inflatable. Before we get into this, Grub actually had a very long journey to get up to Cairns. So I first reached out to Highfield when Gecko was in Townsville and asked if they might be interested in sponsoring me a new dinghy. Puss was on her last legs and I wanted to join the inflatable club because, to be honest, having a hard rowboat is such a nice aesthetic. But it's really not convenient for so many reasons. It's really tippy, it's really hard to get in and out of when I'm snorkeling, it's hard to balance stuff in, and at night when the wind dies it just bangs against the boat really loudly, so I always have to side tie it with fenders. And I decided that if I was going to switch to an inflatable, I wanted the best, which in my opinion is Highfield. And the other reason that I decided to go for a Highfield dinghy was that Puss is pretty light.
And because I solo sail most of the time, I need to be able to manhandle it myself. So I need to be able to get it up, flip it upside down on deck. I need to be able to pull it up the beach by myself. And Highfield has a line get it on and off the boat that's called the ultralight. And their whole thing is that they're beaches myself. So that was kind of my new one of the most important things to me, was just the weight factor. And then I wanted something durable, because you always hear these horror stories about sailors whose dinghies bottom of it, but with a Highfield they're a lot more durable. The sun chafes through them, better material, so life happens to them. And before, when I had my hard dinghy, I was always like, oh well, when I reached out to Highfield, they told me that they would sponsor me except every 3 months. Any dinghy I wanted, I chose the hold out of the bottom one because it has to be able to fit on the foredeck. I have the Ultralight 240, which is 2.4 meters or 7 foot 10 inches. It's the perfect size to fit on my foredeck. But they have everything starting from 2.2 meters and going all the way up to 3.4 meters for the Ultralight line. So Highfield has a Pacific section, and they're based in Brisbane. So Highfield told me they would give me a new dinghy, but I either had to get it in Brisbane or I had to pay to ship it up to Cairns, which was going to be something like $800. You guys remember Andy? Andy to the rescue. So Andy was driving down to Brisbane anyway, but he drove down to Brisbane towing a trailer so that he could pick up grub for me in Brisbane, drive it all the way back to Townsville, but then continue going to Cairns. He lives in Townsville. Cairns is an extra bit. So he ended up driving thousands of kilometers with a trailer behind his car just to get grub to me.
Here we are, the start of the adventure, 1,700 kilometres or 1,100 miles for the new puss. All wrapped up, ready to go. It's start of the adventure. Here we are at a place called Gympie, about 200 k's north of Brisbane. First stop. Everything's going well.
Of course, this doesn't include the entire journey down that Andy took towing an empty trailer. When he first left his house in Townsville, the trailer had some issues that he had to pull over to the side of the road and fix, but he got it going again pretty quickly, and it was smooth sailing after that. Along the way home, Andy and his wife Tracy visited friends and family, all with new puss, as she was called then, in tow. Andy and Tracy drove back to Townsville, where they regrouped, stayed there for a while, and then the following weekend drove up to Cairns to deliver grub to the awaiting Dan and I. Me and Dan? Me and Dan.
It does. So here we go, the new dinghy. With the layer.
Oh. And the vessel that brought her all this way. The trusty steed. Oh, you've got pole on the top too?
Oh, the whisker pole.
Whisker pole.
Whisker pole. Oh, amazing.
The Highfield company packaged new puss up pretty well for the drive there, and we excitedly opened her up, took off the plastic wrap, opened up the cardboard box to see for the first time the brand new grub.
Alright, we've got the dinghy open, and this little box came with it. A box of bits. So we have
bag
of
information.
Ooh, you get a whistle and a compass.
Nice.
A little key ring that floats, a pen, life jacket for the dinghy.
Nice, we finally got a life jacket. It looks more like a dry bag to me.
Oh, is it a dry bag? That's cool.
That's a wicked
That's
dry
an
bag.
amazing dry bag. Yeah, that's awesome. And it comes with a little backpack strap. This is supposed to be the... Oh, it's a seat and it has little pockets. We have a pump. We have... Oh, a dinghy repair kit.
Apart from Highfields never fails.
Actually. Oh, this is the seat.
That's the seat.
This
and then
must go over
that's
the
a
seat.
wicked seat
That's
pouch.
really cool. And
Would
then
highly recommend
the
with
little
every
oars.
order of.
The little oars kit.
Wonderful.
So, let's pump her up. This pump that comes with the dinghy has a little gauge on it to tell you how many bar you're pumping it up to, and PSI both. And then on the dinghy, it also has the gauge for how much you should pump it up to, so you can always make sure you get it nice and full. This dinghy has 3 compartments. It has the bow and then 2 aft compartments that are separate from each other, so that even if one of them completely deflates, the dinghy's not gonna sink. It might just get slightly submerged, but that's a really nice safety feature for people like me who are going out to really remote places where there's often no other boats and no form of help, to know that the dinghy is gonna float no matter what. All right, we're putting on the little oars now, and they have their top nubble tied on, so you can't forget it. So there's this slides into here like that. This guy screws on like this. Oh, actually, okay, wait, this is cool.
We are
because
gonna Loctite.
on other designs, the rope twists with the nubble and it gets all twisty, but on this one, it does not.
Free spinning.
Free spinning. And then the oars just sit like this in their little oar holders.
Yeah, on a bunch of dinghies that I've used, these things fall off, and then you can't ever find that, and then you can't find your oar because the oar falls off. This should be good.
That's smart.
And he takes his off when he's on the boat. Tell us what you got.
Oh.
Is this dinghy waterproof?
So we also have this little seat guy, and it has a big pocket. It's like the adventure bag.
I'm guessing anchor in that bad boy. Keep it out of the rain for the rush.
Or you could keep the pump in here.
Spare
In
gasolina.
case the dinghy needs to be pumped up. And then this little net bag, this would be good for sunscreen, sunglasses. I'm picturing those sorts of things. And then this one, maybe your wallet,
Repair kit.
keys, important things, snacks, cookies.
And behind the scenes, Andy's just tidying up all the cardboard
Yeah, and we're just 2 little monkeys running around making up. So one of the selling points of this dinghy, and the main reason that I wanted it, is because it's the ultralight series, which means that it's ultra light. And I wanted one that was comparably heavy to my dinghy puss, because I like to single hand still, even though I have dad. And so we're gonna do the first test lift to get it off the trailer.
1, 2.
Oh, it's so light. It's the same as...
It's lighter than
It might be lighter than the well, yeah.
We can throw it if we wanted to. I don't want to, but we
light.
could. That's so cool.
That is. So, we have the dinghy in the water, little Grub, and I just switched the engine over from Puss to Grub, so officially Grub is the new tender of Gecko. And because Andy has driven thousands of miles, literally thousands of kilometers, to deliver this boat to me, I'm taking him out for the first spin in the new Highfield dinghy.
First test run. Captain Andy on the bow. Hey Andy, hold your hat, mate.
Full power!
Whoa!
So Puss, we were never able to get her full throttle, maybe half tops. This boat instantly full throttle.
And chilled.
Stable
You were on the plane, basically.
Basically.
Right, are you gonna tow this round? Not 1 boat, but 2 boats.
He who dies with the most boats wins.
Another Andy quote, he who dies with the most boats wins.
Thank you.
We'll cut that bit out probably. Who gave her a full engine, eh? Dangerous.
Can't handle any more power.
Look at that, full throttle.
It's not a plane! It's not a plane!
Brand new Martin Holder.
It's the first sunny day in quite a while, and we're taking advantage of it to dry all the stuff that has just been sitting around wet for the past 4 or 5 days. We went kiting a couple days ago and weren't able to dry any of that stuff, plus Cairns is just a very rainy place, and since it's such a nice sunny day, we're going to take Grub ashore and fill it with some water, do some errands, and just test her out, see how she does as a real dinghy tender.
Okay love, what do we got going on here?
The covers for the dinghy arrived in the mail.
So we have this beautiful cover for covering it when it's on the deck, which is very cool. Keep it nice and happy from the sun when it's riding on the bow underway and stuff. Keep some of the salt water off of it. With a nice Highfield insignia, same colors as the dinghy. Very cool, very exciting. Lots of accessories.
It's just cool because you can take the middle compartment out and it makes all the space.
Yeah.
I like that because the middle compartment's sweet, but then when you have bikes and water and stuff, you've got a ton of space again.
Yeah, so this has a removable center seat that we can take out so we can put our bikes in and the water. So we've just done a little water run to fill up the jerrys. Got my bike in here, so we took out the center seat to fit all that and ourselves in, and then when it's just the two of us going on snorkel missions or just running ashore without a ton of stuff, we can put that center seat back in and have somewhere to sit. So it's a very versatile little beast.
The next day we took Grub ashore to the launching ramp and carried her up, no problemo. Put the little sunshade on her just to test it out. We probably won't do this every time we go ashore. It's more for when she's sitting upside down on the deck for long periods of time. But we were just excited to try it out. Thanks for watching this week's episode, and a huge thank you to Andy for taking Grub all the way on that giant journey, and thank you to Highfield for providing me with this awesome dinghy. At the time of making this edit, I've now owned Grub for about 6 months, and I still, every time I go in her, I'm not even just saying this, I'm so thankful that I have such a nice dinghy. Grub's, I mean, you can jump on her, stand on her. She has taken Dan and I out to countless surf breaks and kite spots, and it's just, it really is better to have an inflatable. It just took me a very long time to decide that I was ready to give up my tender, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy with Grub, and Highfield is just a really, really awesome company. So, GAC is just getting a little more sophisticated every year. It's very cool. I put out new videos on YouTube every 2 weeks, and for my patrons, you guys get a snack on the weeks that I don't put out a full-length YouTube video. If you'd like to become a patron, my Patreon is patreon.com/windhippie. For one-time donations, I have a PayPal, paypal.me/windhippie. Don't forget to check out the Odyssey Sailing Festival. All links to all of that in the description below. Thank you, Tish, for always reminding me when I need to do another edit. And this edit's coming to back in Indonesia. I found the footage on my thumb drive of the Highfield, so this episode can finally go up. Thank you guys for your comments. I love reading them. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you guys next week.